The Culture Pop Podcast is brought to you by the law offices of Jacob and Ronnie.
Accident or injury, call Jacob and Ronnie. Call Jacob.
Hey, it's Mase. If you or a friend or loved one is injured in an accident, the first person you should call is my friend Jacob. When I did this, Jacob was great. He helped me by talking through the next steps, which really put my mind at ease. When you're injured in an accident, you got to have an expert. That's why you call Jacob, just like I did. Call Jacob, 844-24-JACOB. That's 844-24-JACOB, or visit calljacob.com.
Call Jacob.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Culture Pop Podcast. I'm Steve Mason. That's Sue Kolinsky. Great show today. Going to do an Academy Awards preview. So when I was a little kid, one of the few nights I was able to stay up super late was for the Academy Awards. And I was living back east, which means the Academy Awards went past midnight back in the day. But even as a little kid, I was fascinated and loved the Academy Awards and couldn't wait to see them every year. You love a good award show, right?
I love a good award show. I watched the SAG Awards.
Me too. On Netflix.
On Netflix.
I'm such a junkie. I went onto YouTube, the Independent Film Independent channel, and watched the Independent Spirit Awards this weekend.
And how was that?
I thought it was, I don't understand why somebody didn't put it on TV. It was very well produced. There were lots of name actors in the audience and name actors winning. I can't understand why Netflix or Prime or somebody didn't pick it up. But I watched it on YouTube, so it ain't what it used to be.
Don't they usually? Isn't it usually televised?
It is usually. This is the first year that it's on. Now, nothing wrong with YouTube. It's the number one social media platform in the world.
Yeah.
But I was surprised it didn't have a TV deal. I thought it was great. I was happy Past Lives won Best Picture there.
Oh, cool.
And I'm trying to think. Jeffrey Wright won Best Actor.
Makes
Lily
sense.
Gladstone won Best Actress. Divine Joy Randolph won Best Supporting Actress. And I do not recall the winner of Best Supporting Actor. It wasn't Robert Downey Jr., because that's a big studio movie. So they're looking for a little more indie people. You know the one thing I don't like? Get your take on this. They now just have Best Lead Performance. And in this case, Best Lead Performance, there were 6 women and 4 men. But the women and the men were in the same category. How do you feel about that?
I mean, maybe because it's called the Independent Spirit Awards.
Right.
That it makes sense that they kind of go out of the box a bit and do that. It's unconventional.
Yeah.
So I
give me 2 categories. Give me Best Actor. Give me Best Actress. I mean, I guess I'm old school that way. I don't want them all combined. I'd like to see 2 people come away with awards instead of 1.
So who won Best Lead Performance?
Best Lead was Jeffrey Wright.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I was kind of rooting for Greta Lee. But yeah, Jeffrey Wright.
Who hosted it?
Adie Bryant, who I don't know if she's still on Saturday Night Live or was on Saturday Night Live.
She was on Saturday. I don't think she's on anymore.
Yeah, she was very funny. Funny. Yeah. Maybe next year they'll have a TV deal. I watch give me an award show, I watch it. I mean, I watched the BAFTA Awards on BritBox. I mean, I am such.
And how different is it from our awards here in the States?
It's more stuffy.
Yeah, I would think.
Very
British.
The BAFTAs are very, stiff upper lip. There's not as much loose, free stuff. But it's definitely worthwhile. I watch it every year. I actually signed up for BritBox just to watch it.
Did you know who the host was?
They went host free.
Okay.
They did the thing like the Oscars did for a couple of years with no host, which I thought was boring.
Yeah, really boring.
I think Jimmy Kimmel is a good, solid Oscar host. Hey, I want to let everybody know before we get to our Oscars preview, if you're listening right now on Apple or on Spotify, do us a favor, subscribe to the show, and then leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. then you scroll down and you leave us a comment or a review or a snarky joke or whatever you got, and all this stuff. Sue, we've got brand new studio. We've got all this new microphone, lighting, all that stuff. That means we are here to stay. So please sign up every way you can to consume the show. We appreciate that a lot. So our guest today is a film expert known for his work on the Filmspotting podcast and radio show. He's also the editor-producer for Think Christian, a website and podcast exploring faith and pop culture. As an author, he's written 2 books, Movies Are Prayers, and his latest, Fear Not, A Christian Appreciation of Horror. Josh Larsen joins us. Josh, thanks a lot for coming back to the show.
Yeah, it's good to be back to talk to you two.
We don't normally have return guests, so you are the returning champion when it comes to...
Wow. Okay, well, I'll try to live up to that.
I wanted to, since this is our Oscars preview show, before we talk about the individual categories, just the overall year in movies, and how do you think the year of 2023 was?
Incredibly diverse, rich, one that I think we'll look back on. Already people talked about what a great year was, but I think as we get further away from it, it'll register even more so. And the way this showed itself to me is on the Filmspotting podcast I do at our year-end roundtable. We usually have 2 guests join myself and Adam Kempenaar. And among the 4 of us, we had very little crossover, or at least the least amount of crossover we've had in years when it came to our top 10 lists. And at the same time, it wasn't like I thought everyone else on the panel had crazy titles. Pretty much everything they picked, I thought, yeah, that was a really great movie too. So the fact that we could bring, almost 40 quality titles to that conversation showed you just the amount of good stuff we got in 2023.
Wow. Well, I wanted to know what your top 10 were.
Sure. And mine, case in point, I was a little separate from the rest of the group in my favorite film of the year, and that was The Boy and the Heron, the Hayao Miyazaki animated film that came out in December. This is one, I'm a huge fan of Miyazaki. He made Princess Mononoke, My Neighbor Totoro. Spirited Away, which had gotten Oscar attention, won the Best Animated Feature Award years ago. And actually, Heron is up again in that category in the Best Animated Feature this year. So I was excited to see that. And yet, to my point, I was the only one who had that title on my top 10 among the 4 of us. And there are other critics who have put it very high up. In fact, I know one at least who had it as his number 1 film of the year as well. So it wasn't like I was going way off script here. It was just, again, the richness of the year.
Yeah. You think Boy and the Heron is going to win in the animated feature category?
Really good question. It's always hard when it's going up against a Pixar entry like Elemental this year. But the most competition will actually probably come from a non-Pixar, though American film, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which was so much fun and so smart and so on the cutting edge of animation. And honestly, it was good enough that it was also in my top 10. I had it at number 9. I was just checking to see where it actually landed. I could see Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse bumping out The Boy and the Heron, which, if that happens, I'm not going to complain too much. Again, both were on my top 10.
Yeah, Spider-Man was fantastic. I love the animation. You're right, is different than traditional animation.
Yes.
I personally didn't think that Elemental was up to general Pixar standard. I'd
agree.
I think it's lower end Pixar when I think about all Pixar movies.
Yeah. I think that's been largely the consensus on that one. Some amazing visuals as usual, but the storytelling, not exactly what we've come to expect from Pixar.
I didn't get to see hardly any of the animated features.
Try.
So I'm going to go now. No.
Yeah. No, you should try. I would encourage you. Boy and the Heron is, if you're not familiar with Miyazaki, it's kind of a lot to take in as your first Miyazaki. So maybe don't start there if he's new to you. But yeah, just maybe catch up with Spider-Verse, just, to get a sense of where animation is these days. That this is, as we were just saying, Steve and I were saying, that it's like at the forefront of the art form.
Yeah. So let's dive into the Academy Awards, and we'll talk about what we think will win, what we think should win, who we think should have been nominated and wasn't nominated, all that kind of stuff as we get ready for the ceremony. So I want to start with Best Director. And I think it's fair to say that at this point, Christopher Nolan is not, he's unbeatable. He is absolutely going to win in the Best Director category. And it's absolutely deserved. I went back and watched Oppenheimer, and it's kind of goofy. I've got this massage chair that I have, and it's got Bluetooth speakers like on both sides of my head. So I'm completely enveloped in the movie. And so I watched Oppenheimer that way, and I had a whole new appreciation of it. The detail, the number of great actors that keep showing up. I mean, there are so many actors in that movie that are just there for a couple of minutes, and it's just the quality of those actors is amazing. I don't want to live in a world where Christopher Nolan has not won an Academy Award. I think he's going to win, right?
That would be my prediction. And you're right. When I try to do these things, I have to set aside my heart, right? And think about Oscar history, what tends to happen, what the history of the nominees are. And to your point, Steve, when it comes to Christopher Nolan, he has been nominated 5 times before this, including Best Director for Dunkirk, but he's never won. Yeah. And so that is something voters do take into account, in addition to what they see on the screen and what they made of Oppenheimer, which has been one of the most critically acclaimed movies of the year. So taking all of that into account, that would be my prediction as well. But as far as taste, Oppenheimer is one of those strange ones. As much as I appreciated about the movie and the way you describe your experience of it is exactly right. It is such a experience for the senses of all kinds, even though it has a lot of ideas at play as well. The sound and the sights are just as much a part of that, which Nolan deserves credit for. But I didn't have it in my top 10. I had, so many other films that I liked more. And one of those was the Best Picture nominated Anatomy of a Fall, the French courtroom drama.
Yeah.
So compelling. I still don't know what I make of the main character's guilt after having seen it twice now. And for me, I thought the way the director, Justine Triet, managed that material, didn't give us everything we wanted, yet still kept us hooked, was so masterful. She had such complete command of that difficult material that would have been my personal choice for a Best Director win.
That would be my choice too, although that's my heart. But I do think Christopher Nolan is going to win. That Anatomy of a Fall was my favorite movie of the year.
Great.
And for me to say that even the dog was amazing in that film, and the kid was great too. I mean,
oh yeah,
there was not one piece of fat in that film. It was just so beautifully done. The way the use of the what was that? That was it a 50 Cent song? Was that?
Yeah. Well,
yes, it was.
It was, it was like a bossa nova cover.
And just hearing, the music without the lyric. I mean, everything was it was perfect. It was a perfect movie.
Yeah. And I'm with you there, Sue. It was my number 2 film of the year, actually, after The Boy and the Heron. And yeah, the use of that song, I think I chose that as my favorite music moment of 2023 because it was so effective.
Yeah.
And Snoop the dog. I mean, there seems to be always like an animal performance every year that kind of just, gets into our hearts. And for me, it's Snoop. And he's instrumental, to your point, Sue, about everything there for a purpose. He's instrumental to this plot as well, as we're trying to figure out, for those who haven't seen it, this happens right at the beginning. This father and husband is found dead outside the family's home. And the question is, how did this happen? Did he fall? Was it suicide? Did the wife and mother push him? And she's Sandra Huller in that role, is up for Best Actress. My favorite performance of the year. Snoop's integral to the dynamic of that family and what he witnesses and what he may have seen. So it's just a great movie all around.
So the movie's been out for a while. Now we're all here. We've all seen it. It's one of my 2 favorite movies of the year also. I thought it was
nice.
Brilliant. Although I have no idea how court works in France. I like it.
Wasn't that crazy?
Is that really how they do it? Yeah.
I would love to know. I would love to know because, yeah, you're just interrupting each other and it's like bursting into conversation. It was something.
And also people who aren't even on the stand. I mean, they're sitting in the gallery, you know, and they're talking. It's like, I was waiting for someone to just kind of walk in, you know, from coming back from the bathroom and having a comment. I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah, a little chaotic.
Did she or didn't she?
I still don't know, to be honest with you. I'm not trying to. If you're forcing me to choose, I'm going to say she did not. And it's related to my understanding, and I've gone back and forth on this with other people who have watched it. My understanding of the boy's interpretation of a conversation he had with his father, and how he understands his father's state of mind and how that might relate to what might have happened. And then you follow that, the role that the wife and mother probably did not play, I'm going to say, if you're forcing me.
Sue, what do you think? Did she or didn't she?
I don't think she did it. I think that he was just a very troubled guy. Look, they had a troubled marriage, but I think he was very troubled. I don't think that she would have killed him having the young son, too. I just don't think she would have done that.
Yeah, I actually agree. I think she didn't do it. I don't think she did it. That was my initial, but I love the fact that the ending is ambiguous. I love a great ambiguous ending that leads to conversations like this. Yeah. Some of the other nominees for Best Director, I think we all think Christopher Nolan's going to win, but Sue and I were just talking about Poor Things. Yorgos Lanthimos is nominated for Best Director. Very, very well-deserved. It's an incredibly original film. I thought Emma Stone gave one of the great performances of the year. The cast was amazing. The production design was incredible. I loved Poor Things.
Yeah, the scope of the visuals and the ambitiousness of every production element is undeniable. And I did come more around on this movie the second time I saw it, but I have to admit, Steve, I found while I admired a lot of that, I also found it somewhat exhausting. My first watch, it just kept getting piled on you. And I don't want to say over-directed because I love the other films of Yorgos Lanthimos, almost all of them. The Favorite was just before this. And Dogtooth from a number of years ago. The Lobster is my favorite of his. The
Lobster is crazy.
So good and crazy. You're right. So I was ready for this, but I did find all of that to be piled on in a way that kept me a little removed. I came around the second viewing, as I said, because I was ready for it, maybe more prepared for it. But in terms of the director category, you know, on Filmspotting, we force ourselves to do something. We say, who'd they miss? Who should they have nominated? But if we're going to do that, we got to take someone out, right, to make room.
Sure.
Gotta say, I might take Lanthimos out here just because of that, the overbearing nature of the movie, the way I experienced it, at least.
Interesting. Sue, did you see Zone of Interest?
I didn't. I couldn't find it anywhere.
Yeah, it's been a difficult one. I think it might be on video on demand. May have come out just within the last few days for listeners who haven't been able to find it either and want to catch up with it.
Jonathan Glazer is nominated for Best Director. I found that movie to be just chilling. I walked out of there with such an unbelievably unsettled feeling. And this idea that this family was witness to. Sorry, Sue. Sorry.
I don't want you to tell me about it.
Okay.
I know you.
Right.
I know you want to talk about it in depth, but I really don't want to know.
Do you
about
know
it.
the basic setup at all?
I don't know. I don't. Okay. I never want to know anything. He knows that. I never want to know anything.
Fair enough.
Let's talk about the director that we felt got overlooked. You said you would remove Yorgos Lanthimos. What director would you like to have seen in that category?
So I'm a sucker for Wes Anderson, and I'm astonished, though, you know, this has kind of happened. It happened with The French Dispatch, his last film, too. The Academy Awards, the Oscar voters, they used to love Wes Anderson, going back all the way to Royal Tenenbaums, and he's been nominated multiple times. They seem to have forgotten about him. because to my mind, his movies just keep getting better. And yet his last two, including Asteroid City from last year, Asteroid City was completely shut out. And talk about a director of complete control of their material, where every shot, every piece of costume design, production design, all those elements is in complete control. That's Wes Anderson. And I think he had that in Asteroid City. I don't know, maybe this is like a Hollywood thing, because he does tend to shoot, especially his last couple of pictures, the majority of them overseas in various locations. And maybe it's a matter of, not being in town, not shooting his films in town, that he's almost seen as something of an outsider. That's the only theory I can come up with, because if you're just looking at his movies and you're looking at how the Oscars used to love him, I don't get the fact that he's no longer invited to this party. Now he was nominated, I should say, last year. He also had those Netflix shorts based on Roald Dahl short stories, and The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar did get a live action short nomination. So I'll just be hoping he wins that one.
That was crazy.
Yeah, I loved
that
Wonderful
so
Story
much.
of Henry Sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
The dialogue is just, those actors in that movie,
the precision
dealing with
you'd have to
that
have.
dialogue. Wow. I mean,
It was like that snappy kind of like, yeah, like
So
like
quick.
like gangster movie kind of. Yeah, it was really fun.
Sue, what about you? Any director you felt got left out?
I really loved American Fiction.
Okay.
So who directed it? I don't even remember. who
Or
directed it.
Jefferson, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
So maybe that movie, because I just thought that was a really, really unique story and just a really, really original film.
And that one got a Best Picture nomination as well. So, understandable that you would expect the director would be honored. Of course, there's less slots for the director category. But yeah, that's a feature debut actually for Cord Jefferson. So impressive that the movie got a nod among those top Best Picture considerations.
And he did get nominated in the screenplay category too.
I believe that's right. And it's an adaptation. So this is a Best Adapted screenplay nomination. And I'm just looking up that now, but that sounds right to me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it did.
he's nominated
Screenplay.
Best Adapted Screenplay. Yeah.
Yep.
There you go.
It's a great script. So for me, and I was happy, I watched, by the way, the Independent Spirit Awards don't have a TV deal now. I watched it on YouTube. I used to love watching the Independent Spirit Awards. So the big winner for Best Feature was Past Lives, which was my absolute favorite movie of the year. That movie,
very nice.
That's the one that made me very misty at the end. That last sequence with Past Lives with Teo Yu and Greta Lee was so moving to me. And then her going back to John Magaro's character, her husband, character, and the way she broke, I just thought it was absolutely beautiful. So Celine Song is the director I would have liked to see in the Best Director category. I thought
Totally
that was
fair.
an amazing movie. Yeah.
And
did that make your list?
I think it was number 11. Again, speaking to the richness of the year, I wanted to get it on so badly, but couldn't get it in that top 10. But yeah, and I think, Celine Song, it's a good example sometimes of where those directors who aren't doing the Lanthimos thing, where you can see every choice on the screen so boldly, they can get overlooked, right? But think again to that scene you talked about, Steve, where it is a moment of ambiguity, where she is saying goodbye to this one man and walking back to the other man. Think about how patient that scene plays out. And the camera is sort of across the street from her, tracking along with her as she walks down the sidewalk. It gives her space. It gives her distance. It's not too intrusive. And the choice to make that a long walk is so crucial and risky because, we all have short attention spans these days. And so you could see how someone in the theater would be squirming, like, why doesn't she get there? Where's she going? But that scene plays out just as long as that character needs. And it takes a smart and willing to take risks director to make a move like that. And I think it pays off because that scene sticks with me, and clearly it stuck with you as well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, we all, Steve and I had talked, because we talked to John McGarr, and we were talking about that first scene of the film where they're sitting at the bar and it's a wide shot and it's so voyeuristic, and you're just so locked into what is this story, because the people that are talking are saying exactly what you're thinking, you know.
Right.
What is the deal with the three of them, you know? Because I do that when I go to restaurants, or I'm in a situation and I see sometimes a couple, I'm like, are they on a first date, or you know, are they married, or are they just friends? So I thought that was a very, very effective directing.
Yeah, nice little tease of an opening. Yeah.
The other thing we saw, and again, John Magaro on the show, when you see Magaro, his character, meet Teo Lu for the first time. And by the way, am I screwing up his name? Is it Teo? I know it's Teo.
You have that correct. I think I wrote this down because I didn't want to. Yeah, Teo Yu is how I have it as well, because he's one of the people I would have slid into the best actor category if I could have, to be honest with you. He's so good.
So this is amazing to me. So Celine Song did not allow John Magaro to meet Teo Yu before that scene. So the first time you see them come together and meet each other is the first time the actors actually met each other.
Wow.
Which is a crazy way to create this sort of authenticity to people actually meeting for the first time. I love that little wrinkle that she used.
And again, not a directorial choice you would know from what you see on the screen, right?
Yes.
But perhaps crucial to getting that moment to work as well as it does.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Best Supporting Actress, which seems to be a landslide in favor of, she's been on the show too, Da'Vine Joy Randolph from The Holdovers. I think I can't imagine her not winning at this point. She's won every single award along the way. And I do love her scene in the kitchen in The Holdovers, where she has that emotional, I think that's, in many ways, the heart of the movie. In that, first of all, Da'Vine Joy Randolph, I think completely deserving of this Academy Award.
Yeah, I think you're probably right that she'll get it, and I would be completely happy with it as well. You mentioned the scene in the kitchen. The other one I think of, and it's during the same sequence. This is a Christmas party where these three kind of castaways over the holidays have ended up because they have nowhere else to go. So they sort of know someone there, I believe. And that's how they end up there. And she has this moment of just breakdown, really. And I think of even preceding the kitchen, isn't it, where she's sitting against the record player out in the family room where the party's going on, kind of behind her or around her. And she's just having this personal, quiet moment, lost in her own thoughts. The Temptations' Silent Night is what she's listening to.
Yeah.
And there's just such, what's coming in that later kitchen scene just by watching her there. It's a nonverbal moment of brilliant acting. It's almost as good as that kitchen scene is. It's almost like we don't need it once we've gotten that peek at her, because we know what she's going through. And she's giving all of that to us without conversation with another character, just the way she's holding her body in sort of a posture of defeat almost, and the look on her face. So it is a great performance. I'd be very happy if she does win.
I love that her inspiration for smoking cigarettes, because she wasn't a smoker, was watching Betty Davis films.
Oh, that's right.
I thought that was just terrific.
Is that something, I'm trying to remember, is that something she told you guys, or is that something that
she told us?
Well, I was going to say, I don't remember that in the movie. Oh, wow.
Because I asked her if she was a smoker, and she said no. And I told her that one of my pet peeves is when actors don't smoke, and they do smoke, and they don't do it correctly, because I was a smoker for years, and it's something that it just sticks out to me, and really
you could spot it.
Takes me out of the moment, truthfully.
Sure.
And she was so authentic.
So she picked Betty Davis as her model. That's something.
The other thing that she told us, and I love this, is that they shot that kitchen scene twice. She had 2 takes. So the first scene, the first version was a quieter, kind of the emotion is simmering, but she never really, breaks down in a big way. So they did that version. Then they did a version that she did break down in a big way, in a larger way.
I see.
And they ended up using take one.
Yeah.
And take one was the right one.
Yeah. And I'm glad to hear that because, sometimes the cynic in me says take two is what's going to get you the Oscar nomination.
Yeah.
So it's good to hear that it was that other version, which I generally appreciate more, the slightly more subdued version that they went with, and she's still getting recognized for a great performance.
Anybody else in that category? Emily Blunt, Oppenheimer, Danielle Brooks, The Color Purple, America Ferrera, Barbie, Jodie Foster, Nyad. I mean, all great performances. But I just think Da'Vine is the one. Are we missing anybody, do you think, for Best Supporting Actress?
This is pretty clear to me, to be honest with you. I think, Danielle Brooks, I think, is a powerhouse in The Color Purple and might have had, this category of Best Supporting Actress, they often like newcomers or new faces. And, at least to the Oscars, it doesn't mean that they're new to the acting profession. And maybe Danielle Brooks might have been able to take advantage of that, if not for Randolph's great performance in The Holdovers. So that's another one that I do think is really good and worth highlighting. The others are probably at a lower level performances for me than those.
Yes, as same as for me. Best Supporting Actor. So Mark Ruffalo, Poor Things, Ryan Gosling, Barbie, Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer, Robert De Niro, Killers of the Flower Moon, and Sterling K. Brown. I love that he got a nomination for American Fiction. He is one of the highlights of that movie. I mean, Robert Downey Jr. is another guy who's won every single precursor award leading up to the Oscars. And in watching that movie again, he's great. I mean, he is really good.
You need someone just naturally riveting when you're asking him to play sort of this guy you instinctively don't like. Even when you first meet him, seems a little braggy, a little full of himself. And so you need someone with Downey's, even though he doesn't look like Robert Downey Jr., playing older, right? And looking older, he still has that natural charisma that's necessary to carry the audience through to that character. I will say, though, I think his scenes are good and that whole storyline is good. One of the reasons Oppenheimer didn't crack my top 10 is because I still wanted to keep getting back to the Oppenheimer thread. I know they're related, and people have mounted great defenses on how intricately the two storylines are related.
Yes.
I recognize that, but I still felt like, let's get back to Oppenheimer's story. But that's to take nothing away from Robert Downey Jr.'s performance, which I think is solid and is going to win him the Oscar. I mean, in addition to what you said, Steve, about him winning awards leading up to this, this is his third time being nominated for an Oscar without a win. And so it's kind of, this happens too if you look at Oscar history, right? It's like he's due. It's his time, which will sometimes can tip the scales toward a win even more than the performance itself.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to win for sure. And he's a great story too. You look at his past. I mean, he really is the comeback kid in so many ways in his career.
And voters love that too, right? So,
yeah. But I love Mark Ruffalo. He was phenomenal in Poor Things.
So good.
Just so good. And it was just kind of an odd character for him to play. I've never seen him do something so unique. And he was just great. He was so
broadly
funny.
Comic. Yeah. And I will say, for whatever reservations I had about Poor Things, he was probably my favorite element, is just the goofiness that he brought to it from the moment he shows up till the end.
Right.
And I never watched the show my mom loved with Sterling K. Brown, This Is Us. So I didn't know much about him as an actor because I just never watched the show. And he just pops in that movie, in American Fiction. And he's a scene stealer. I mean, I think he steals a lot of scenes in that movie, and he's got such charisma on screen, and he's got such a magnetic personality. His day will come. It's not now, but I think his day will come.
I hope you're right. I love his performance here in American Fiction, and actually it was Let's see, last year, 2022, he was the co-star along with Regina Hall in a little movie called Honk for Jesus, Save Your Soul. And it's this religious satire where he plays a corrupt pastor. He is so good there, as you can probably imagine, having this sort of dangerous edge to him, but charisma as well. And I had him among my top 5 performances that year for Honk for Jesus. So I definitely knew he had this in him, and it's pretty cool to see him getting recognized for another great turn, this time in American fiction.
All right, Best Actress. I know Lily Gladstone has won. She won at the Independent Spirit Awards. She's won most of the precursors, right? Emma Stone won Best Actress Comedy or Musical at the Golden Globes. I think there's still a chance Emma Stone wins here, but Lily Gladstone would be absolutely the favorite. And the other performances, I mean, Carey Mulligan is amazing in Maestro, and Sandra Hüller from Anatomy of a Fall is also, you mentioned, your favorite performance of the year. If I had a vote, and I guess I did at the SAG Awards, I voted for Emma Stone, but I have a feeling Lily Gladstone is going to win. What do you think?
I'm going to throw a curveball, and I don't know if I'm not confident about this, but I do wonder, and I would fill my prediction ballot with Annette Bening. And
really
it goes,
wow.
I know that she hasn't been winning the awards on the way, so this is probably dumb, but I think about the fact that this is her 5th nomination without a win across her career. To your point, Sue, about stories and comebacks, I don't know if you'd consider this a comeback for her, but she hasn't been in the limelight in recent years as much as she once was. And, I just wonder if the Academy voters will take that into account. They do love de-glamorized performances as well. And her playing Diana Nyad, playing around her age, essentially, and looking like it on screen, not glammed up in any way. That's crucial to that character. I don't know. It goes against everything leading up to the ceremony, but here's the clincher too. Diana Nyad is a media presence. She knows how to be on stages. I can see the Oscars inviting her to be there. I don't know if she's going to be or not. And then Annette Bening wins, brings Diana Nyad up to, for her speech. I mean, this is a moment that Oscars love. So we're way away from the performance itself at this point, but sometimes in making predictions, that's what you have to think about.
Wow, you're writing a scene from the Oscars. I love it.
Yeah. Well, I met a name drop. I met Annette Bening a couple of months ago at a charity poker tournament, and it was for the Screen Actors Guild. It was for the Actors Fund, which the money goes to actors who were struggling during the strike or crew that was struggling during the strike. She is beloved in that community. She is beloved amongst actors. So and was very involved in resolving the SAG-AFTRA strike. So I think there's credence to the idea that she could win. She's a beloved figure and hasn't won. And this is another one of those she's due kind of ideas.
And there's the factor too of Lily Gladstone, a younger actor like that. She'll have another chance. This is how someone like Annette Bening has the career she does and never wins, because probably at some point she was the person they said, well, she's young, she'll have her other chance. That might come into play too here, at least as far as Lily Gladstone is concerned.
Yeah, it's a tough one because Sandra Hüller, man, she was so amazing in that
Most deserving
film.
for sure.
And so what do you think? The Oscars ordinarily wouldn't go with that choice, foreign actress. I mean, what's your feel like? I want to know, what is the percentage? Because they always say that the actors who win the SAG Award ordinarily win the award for, the Oscar. What do you have any idea what the percentages of that?
Boy, I don't know that percentage. That does sound right. And I would say, for a non-English performance, I'm sure it's happened throughout Oscar history. but the odds are against you when you are going up against, basically these are Hollywood awards. These are industry awards at the end of the day, right? And so any film that has been produced somewhat outside of that system, this goes back to my theory about Wes Anderson a little bit, has a harder chance, I think, of coming away with the actual award.
Yeah.
Right. Did she win the Palme d'Or for Best Actress?
Did she win the...
I know the film did.
Yeah, I'm not sure if she won Best Actress at Cannes or not.
Okay.
Yeah, she was great. The reason, so the SAG Awards do correlate with the Oscars a lot because actors are the biggest branch of the Academy. So if you have the actors, like at the SAG Awards, you have the largest branch of the Academy supporting you. So that's one of the most important precursors, I think, is winning the SAG Award. All right, so Best Actor. The guy I want to win is not going to win. Coleman, Domingo, Rustin, Paul Giamatti, The Holdovers, Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Jeffrey Wright, American Fiction, Bradley Cooper, Maestro. I guess it's going to be Cillian Murphy, but I have a feeling there's a big sentimental choice in Paul Giamatti winning Best Actor. What do you think?
Yeah, I think your instinct is right there. This is really hard. Cillian Murphy has got a good shot. I think Jeffrey Wright also has a good shot for American Fiction. I would guess Giamatti. Again, it comes down to the numbers a little bit. This is his second nomination. Jeffrey Wright, this is his first, so it's a little bit more of the he's due factor coming into play here, maybe for Giamatti.
God, and Coleman Domingo, I mean, he was phenomenal in Rustin.
People love him.
He's great in everything he does, and his
you love seeing him show up in a movie, right? Yeah, it's what he's one of those performers,
and his range is so broad. I mean, I don't think he's going to win, but I think it's going to go to Cillian Murphy. But Paul Giamatti is my number 2 on this one.
So my choice would be Bradley Cooper from Maestro.
You're a Maestro fan.
I've watched the movie twice, again in the massage chair with the ears, and so you're completely enveloped in the movie, and there's so much great music in it. I just think that the conducting scene blew me away when he did Mahler's Second. And I felt like credit to and I don't know if they're nominated for the best makeup category, but that's the best old age makeup I've ever seen in a movie. It is nominated. Completely convincing. Like, you believe that's Leonard Bernstein at whatever it is, 60 or 70 years old. I thought Bradley Cooper was masterful in that movie. I do love Maestro. I know why is it such a divisive movie?
I think I'm not a huge fan of it. I'll put my cards on the table there. Probably my least favorite of the Best Picture nominees. And for me, it is a little bit of its insistence on, it's back to the over-direction thing. Its insistence on how much it wants to win you over. That movie is trying really hard, and Cooper is trying really hard as Bernstein. I agree with you. It's an incredible, impeccable impersonation in a lot of ways. But even while appreciating that, I see the effort, like Cooper's effort at the same time. And it was hard for me to separate the two of those things, I think. And so that's sort of been the difficulty for some people with Maestro, but then it's here with a number of nominations. So there are others like you, Steve, who just absolutely fell for it and think it is one of the best of the year.
Yeah. I mean,
you didn't like it, did you, Sue?
I just, to me, it was just all over the place. It just, I mean, again, I go back to the smoke. It was the best damn smoking I've ever seen in any film or TV series. These guys were French inhaling, and smoke was coming out of their mouths and out of their nose while they were talking. It was so authentic. I thought the performances were good. I thought Carey Mulligan was wonderful. The movie was a little monotonous for me. I don't know. Just
sounds like
wasn't my favorite.
Sounds like you want the Oscars to add a best smoking award soon.
I do. And, this is a joke that I had with my husband, and I always have said this about conductors. Like, what do they do? Because and I know that they are extremely talented, but just when you watch the musicians, like 90% of their time, they're not even looking at the conductor. They're looking at their sheet music. But the conductor's going and motioning and telling the horns to do this and the strings to do this. And these guys aren't even looking at him. So that's my joke about conductors.
Well, and I do think, for me, I wish Maestro had a little bit more about that. You get a few scenes. There's the one scene of him as a teacher, which Bernstein, was known as a legendary instructor as well. We do get one classroom scene, but even there, it's more about him and his persona and legend than what a conductor actually does. I agree. So I would have liked a little bit more in the movie about this guy's life and craft, what that actually was.
So there was a moment in that movie that that really moved me. And it was when Leonard Bernstein's daughter came to him and asked if the stories were true about her dad, and whether or not he was seeing men or had an open relationship or whatever that dynamic was. And he was put in a position where he had to say, no, the stories aren't true, even though they absolutely were. So the shame in that scene that I found that to be the most moving moment in the movie. And I thought Bradley, but I understand what you're saying. It was very directory. Yeah. You could see him working really hard as a director, and I think that's a fair criticism. All right, so Best Picture, we have 10 of them now.
Yeah,
10
crowded
Best
field
Picture
this year.
Yeah,
I know it's like the cast of Saturday Night Live. They just keep on adding more and more choices.
So if you're not following at home, American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. I think Oppenheimer is going to have a really good night at the Oscars. And, it's such a well-crafted movie. I completely understand it. Watching it a second time was even better because I picked up on stuff that I didn't get the first time. Is there a challenger in that group?
Ooh, that's a great question, because I think you're right. Oppenheimer is the clear front runner. Who could surprise it? Maybe The Holdovers. I mean, because that is a movie that burrows its way into people's hearts. And if voters get sentimental, I could see that being an option. But really, I think it's going to be Oppenheimer. And, if it were up to me, as we've already covered, it would be Anatomy of a Fall. But I don't think there's any chance of that happening.
I'm with you, Josh. I think Oppenheimer's going to win, but Anatomy of a Fall to me was the best movie of the year.
So I have a friend who believes that the upset special could be The Zone of Interest.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It is. We can't say anything about it because Sue hasn't seen it yet. But
so
Sue,
even me saying that Anatomy of a Fall was the best picture and I didn't see Zone of Interest, so I may change my mind after I say it. Well, there'll be an addendum.
Maybe.
I was glad Past Lives was in there. I was glad Past Lives was nominated. Yeah, expanding to 10, I think, is more inclusive. The one movie that I thought should have been nominated, and I've been told it's kind of, let's say, flimsy, I guess, was Air. I loved the movie Air.
Oh, I didn't catch up with that one. Yeah.
Now, I come from a sports background, so I knew most of the story, and I just thought Ben Affleck as Phil Knight and Matt Damon as Sonny Vaccaro, and I thought the genius of that movie was never showing Michael Jordan. They showed him briefly, but Michael Jordan, the character, had no lines, and the reality is you can't cast an actor as Michael Jordan. He's too recognizable. So
sure.
They worked around him during the entire movie. Viola Davis as his mom was spectacular. I just thought that was a really, really interesting, and I think there's room for this, a fun movie. I think there can be a fun movie nominated for Best Picture. So that was mine. Sue, was there anything that got left out for you?
No, not at all.
Got them all?
I think so. I mean, I feel bad for the Barbie people.
Yeah, Ken
But
got
how fun that
nominated,
it's
Barbie did
nominated
not.
though. For
I love
mean,
that.
I know
Yes, yes.
yeah,
I
for
do.
Best Picture. There could have been more nominations for it. I agree with that. But yeah, to your point about something fun and light, Steve, I think Barbie, while being a really smart movie,
Mhm.
checks those boxes as well.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I was glad to see
Absolutely.
Barbie made my top 10. So I was glad to see it make the Academy's top 10.
I thought it was great. I think it's so ironic and telling that Ken got nominated and Barbie did not.
I know, even though I do love Ryan Gosling and he was among my favorite supporting actor performances, but yeah, there is an irony there. Absolutely.
Yeah. So he's going to perform Ken the song at the Oscars this year too.
Oh, can't wait.
It's
funny.
called I'm Just Ken, right?
I believe that's it. Yep.
Is the original song. That'll be fun. Although in that category, I think, and she's already won one, but I think Billie Eilish is going to win again for Best Original Song for the song she did for Barbie. I'm trying to remember the name of the song.
What Was I Made For is that.
What Was I Made For?
Yeah. So Barbie going against itself there in that category.
Right. I'm Just Ken and Barbie both in that, and Billie Eilish. But I think Billie Eilish is going to win a second Academy Award. She's won, I mean, I don't even know if she's 20 yet. And she's won potentially 2 Oscars.
It's around there. She is young. Yep.
And who knows how many Grammys. I mean, she always comes out of there with an armful of Grammys. Crazy. Now, are you excited for the show itself? Do you like the show?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's huge in our house. I grew up watching it and my family's into it now. We tune in for the red carpet, check out all the fashions, and get a head start that way. And then, if you're making this a 6-7 hour affair, you start to flag at some point. So we try to, bring out the food later on and then make it all the way to the end. There's some awkward moments every year. There's some strange things that happen, but I wouldn't miss it.
Yeah. The one thing that'll come up is that the Oscars ratings are down. Now, this happens every year because the ratings go down on virtually everything that's not the NFL every single year. The NFL is the one that sort of defies gravity. But the ratings, I'm guessing, will be down slightly for the Oscars. And I have this, I think it has become much more for industry people and people like us, and less for kind of the big tent that invites everybody in. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they've tried to address that by expanding that Best Picture category so you get something like Barbie in, which was an enormous hit. But that's not solving it, right? So there must be something still, maybe what you're getting at. This year will be a good test because both Barbie and Oppenheimer, the front runner, Oppenheimer was a huge box office hit. So although it's very serious material, a very long movie, historical drama, audiences responded to it. So perhaps they'll want to tune in and see if it wins all these awards, or perhaps they'll see that it's the clear front runner and feel like, we know what's going to happen. We'll find out Monday morning.
How much do you think it has to do with the host? Because I love Jimmy Kimmel. I think he is hysterically funny. And
I don't, personally, the host doesn't really move the needle because I'm going to watch it anyway. But there will be some hosts that I'm more excited for than others. He seems to be at this point kind of the safe, solid choice, and he does a decent job. So I think if anything, they don't want to rock the boat too much, and let's just stick with what's working.
Yeah, the other thing is the Oscar host used to be, I mean, for years it was Johnny Carson. There were years where it was Bob Hope. I mean, I think generally speaking, the hosts in history, we shouldn't be expecting a laugh riot. Like, I don't think I'm sure the monologue will be great, and I'm sure they've got, a big writer's room, and they're going to come. But in the end, the jokes tend to be on the tame side at the Oscars. It's not like Ricky Gervais is doing it, where he's dressing everybody down. But the jokes tend to be on the safe side, I think. I love the show every single year. And I want to point out that despite the fact that the ratings are whatever they are, if you look at the top 100 shows from 2023, the only entertainment show The only show in the top 100 that isn't an NFL game is the Oscars.
Interesting, huh?
So the Oscars still, the one show that doesn't have NFL title is one of the top 100 shows. So,
okay.
So there are still people out there and still people watching it and still hanging on every single award. Well, Josh, this has been great. You're our favorite movie guy to talk to. Great insight, great stuff all the way around. Huge fan of yours, and we appreciate you coming on. Enjoy the Academy Awards.
Yeah, thank you so much, you guys. Yeah, enjoy the show.
There you have it, Oscar preview. Josh is great, man. He goes deep. The Filmspotting podcast is excellent. When I want to go deep into a movie, it's a really good place to turn.
He's a nook and cranny guy.
Yes, he is. He's down in it, which is fantastic. So thank you very much to Josh for joining us. Thank you very much for watching and listening. We appreciate you. And we will see you next time on the Culture Pop Podcast.